This is the Josiah White 2. I was not born, but pretty much raised here in Easton, and during elementary school, it was the Josiah White 1, the original. We took a canal boat ride, brief, but they talked a little bit about the history. It's a wooden boat, so of course it ended up getting waterlogged, so they had to build a new one, and that's number 2 there. They did used to have, I don't know if they still do the tours, but there's a new museum here. I don't recall that being there when I was growing up. Technology Center, they call it. Let's find a little bit about the technology behind the canal, but we'll figure we'll start this off down at the lock tender's house. I'll take you on a tour of Delaware and Lehigh Canal here in Easton, Pennsylvania. Let's see if Mr. Canada Goose will let us by. When it was in use, the canal was a lot deeper, but they don't really allow watercraft in here. So this is more or less storm water. When the Lehigh River gets a little too high, they'll pump extra water in here, kind of store it, help maintain the level and reduce flooding. But it's actually quite a lot of new additions here. The last time I remember being here. So today I'm in Easton, Pennsylvania. Town where I grew up. Spent about 20 years, just shy of 20 years here. This river is the Lehigh River, and they've plugged it up, but this is going to be the beginning, and I'll show you that a little bit more in a minute, of the Lehigh Canal, which is part of the Delaware and Lehigh Canal system, which basically acted as the interstate highway of the country before cars. You either walked, rode a horse, attached a horse to a carriage or buggy or wagon, and moved materials that way, or you utilized what was available, the rivers. Now, the Delaware and Lehigh rivers aren't exactly navigable. So what they did in these shallower rivers was build a system of canals. Now this is a water inlet they would use. Water would come off the river down here through those giant gates down there and enter the canal. But as you can see, this mound And this is basically deposits from seasonal flooding and probably some backfill. But what you would do was you take the boat, line yourself right up here. Now remember, this is before industry, so there weren't machine-powered pumps. You used gravity. You'd open up the gates, you'd go in right where that little barge is. They would close the lock, placing you inside this little space. You'd open up a door, you'd adjust the water level inside, making it even with the rest of the canal, allowing you to go in. Now we'll be walking a little bit more of that, but I just kind of wanted to show the meat and potatoes, the bones here of the canal. Start you off. Now, as I mentioned earlier, they use a lot of this for stormwater management. The water would come in here, pass through these gigantic doors, come out the other side. You can see the wake. Here is a view of what killed the canal. The railroad. We'll get a little bit more into that a little bit later on in the journey, but that way is west, that way is east. Our goal is the Delaware River, which would eventually link you up with Philadelphia. So as I said, a little bit more about that as we go along here. But come down here, see these doors would shut, and then you'd adjust the water level either to leave the canal and head west, or to enter the canal, head down to the Delaware. But the lock tender house is occupied, at least seasonally. And they make a beautiful, beautiful park here. I don't recall a lot of this being here from when I was younger. You can actually see the gates there where the water rushes in. Since you don't really use this as a piece of navigation infrastructure, it's basically stormwater management. So they'll allow water from the Lehigh in until it reaches a certain level. You don't want to burst the berm and destroy the canal. As you can see, the water is pretty low here, but they do a job keeping everything more or less intact, which if you're a history buff like me, it's really cool that they put in the time and the effort and the money to make this, at least keep this somewhat clean, usable, enjoyable. Now it's basically a walking, jogging, biking trail. Supposed to be in the lower 60s. Supposed to have plenty of sun. So hopefully, I'll make some awesome content. But stay tuned as we explore the Lehigh Canal here in Easton, Pennsylvania. So the official name of this here is Lock House at the Guard, or the lock number 8. Enter, the water level adjusts, exit. Or enter, water level adjust, and exit onto the river. They made a heavy use of dams to back up the water. Since Lehigh is pretty shallow, you want it to get water high enough. As west, you'd eventually hit Jim Thorpe and Wilkes-Barre, which are known for lots of coal. So, from a commercial standpoint, this was very important. Here's Lehigh. Here's the canal. Dock tender's house number 8. It's supposed to be a museum, but I don't know if you can see with the sign. The museum's closed. I believe it's a seasonal thing. But we're not going to let that deter us. More to see. I got him. But this is one of those dams that held back the water. That allowed for some navigation here on the Lehigh River and into the deep interior of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. We're exploring a little bit more of that here as we go on. A bit of a warm day. So hopefully we got plenty of material to shoot. I don't know if you could see him in there, but there's a little mallard floating around in there. Bobbing and weaving on the water. But this is one of the, you could see one of 2 water outlets. Allows engineers, maintenance staff to keep a control of the water level here in the Lehigh Canal. This I don't remember growing up. This has to be relatively new. There's signs of recent landscaping, so they are slowly trying to add and beautify and tame the area a little bit. But it's a very short distance from this point here, this bridge, to where the Lehigh River is. When I do the editing, I try to do this in chronological order so you can kind of see from where we started to where we're going to finish. But so far it's shaping up to be a nice day. So I got into the museum, and this shows you a little bit. Sail in here. Doors will close. This down here would adjust your water level. Doors would open on the opposite side. Valley. Easton's part of the Lehigh Valley, and George Tyler was one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence. He had a house in Catasauqua, but he also had a house in Easton. Probably get to that in another video, but it shows you Pennsylvania coal being put to use for Industrial Revolution. All of that happened here.
The improvement of the River Lehigh is undertaken on a principle entirely new, making a constant descending navigation that controls.
John Fritz is one of the guys who built them steel.
In these dams, a new species of rock is made.
David Saylor, he did Portland cement, so you figure just these two guys, John Fritz and Dave Saylor, would have made the Industrial Revolution. Our building practices possible. David Thomas, not the guy who founded Wendy's, was the guy that improved the Bessemer blast furnace. That's an actual canal boat. There's a lock tender's house with 2 locks. And then here's some hands-on stuff, get the kids something to do. But if you were going across a river, one way to cross a river would be a water suspension aqueduct bridge. So you cross the water in a canal boat, and you didn't have to worry about rapids. Talking about the Industrial Revolution. So, Lehigh Crane Iron Company, founded by Thomas Crane, started in Beery's Bridge, but it's now known as Catasauqua. And that's when some of the canal barges, so you dump your coal or grain or what have you. And this shows you steam, the importance of steam. Put your wood or your charcoal or your coal in here. Boil the water, create steam, turn these massive flywheels, either create electricity or use that for pneumatically, which is air pressure, or hydraulically, water or oil pressure, to begin moving large pieces. You actually see this piece was from General Electric. This would show you the switches, valves, and what have you. Sparks will fly out of that thing when you turn it off or on. It's just a bunch of bits and bobs here. So while the canal built the Lehigh Valley, really opened up the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. One thing that came after the canal, the railroad. So they actually got it really hands-on with this. You kind of do. Yep, you can do it all. Kids and kids at heart. Yeah, like it recycles itself.
No, I mean, the ship.
You know what? Bubby's hungry, so let's go. Bubby's hungry.
Alright, so I'm going to show you the technical demonstration of how a canal works. Open the lock on the one side, equalize the water, boat flows out. Boat approaches, put that joint up in there, and then you gravity lock, you lift this bad boy up slowly, raise the water level. Now you're able to go ahead. And then the same thing here. So differences in elevation weren't as surmountable as they were before technology and the Industrial Revolution. It's a cool little demonstration, nice little hands-on. So it's really cool that the National Canal Museum put this up here, but you can see we started our journey, the lock tender's house, the locks, and the water intake. You can see those are the mules and a volunteer that would guide the mules. This exhibit shows you how the tiller would in fact turn the rudder, which would allow you to steer your boat through the locks and through the canal. It's a very old-fashioned iron bollard. Ooh, shit. But here, kind of shows you canals that gave birth to the United States. This will show you. So you've got
Build canals
New York
was a motto
City,
of the early 19th
Philly.
century, and build them we did. In the new America, canals led to riches, land, and opportunity. But before canals, there were locks, the first step in transforming rivers into water highways. Locks were constructed at Coteau-du-Lac, Quebec, Great Falls, Virginia, near Rome, New York, Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, Conewago Locks, Pennsylvania, and along other rivers. Then came the Middlesex Canal. Built in 1803, it linked Boston to the Merrimack Valley. People were amazed. If they could build a canal 28 miles long, why not build one even longer? In 1825, they did just that. The Erie Canal, stretching 360 miles and crossing the Appalachian Mountains, it linked the Hudson River at Albany with Lake Erie at Buffalo. The Erie was both a technological marvel and a commercial success. Canal mania swept the country. We built over 4,000 miles of canals in 22 states in only 50 years. Most were towpath canals, canals where mules and horses pulled boats along their banks. The Erie Canal inspired others to try to cross the Appalachian Mountains. The Pennsylvania Main Line, Maryland's Chesapeake and Ohio, and Virginia's James River and Kanawha. But only the Main Line succeeded, making Pennsylvania and New York the undisputed leaders in canal development. Canal boats carried anthracite coal from the mountains of northeastern Pennsylvania to the growing port cities of Philadelphia, New York, and Baltimore. They traveled on the Lehigh, Union, Schuylkill, the Delaware and Hudson canals. On the North Branch, Delaware, Morris, the Delaware and Raritan, and the Susquehanna and Tidewater canals. Miles and miles of new canals sent settlers and developers into the western states and territories of Ohio, Indiana, and Illinois. Many states use canals to extend inland navigation along rivers and lakes. Canals such as Michigan's Sault Ste. Marie and Kentucky's Louisville and Portland set the course for the modern inland commercial waterways. Usually commerce, but sometimes defense, sparked the creation of Canada's Rideau, Welland, and other canals. But the towpath canal's history was short, most of them lasting just a half-century. As quickly as we built canals, we replaced them with trains. By 1900, few canals remained in operation. The last two towpath canals, the Lehigh and the Delaware, began closing their gates in the 1930s. Marking the end of this once vital transportation system and the end of an era.
This is yet another. You have your water, you have your river. There's different ways to build your aqueduct canals, etc. This would be quite a cool thing to see if you get the chance. Those are cascade locks. You're going up several different levels. It shows you some of the cool shit that's around here. Pulley takes a lot less weight. Single pulley, you gotta use a little bit more. Oh, and that's fucking heavy. See, if I don't want to just do a simple rope, you don't want to do a single, you'd rather do a double pulley. You do that comfortably on the GoPro.
Filling those up, and I was like, can I help you? He was like, I've been doing this longer than you. It's like a whole industry.
So it shows you the location of the different coal mines here in the area. You got your New York City, Carbondale, Honesdale, Port Jervis, Scranton. This is Jim Thorpe or Mock Chunk. I've seen that on the channel if you've been watching long enough. So a lot of that coal would come down the Lehigh Canal to Easton, make your way down to either Trenton, Camden, Philly, or you could take the Moores Canal straight up to New York City. And there's the Chesapeake Bay area. Some of the really cool things you can see here. Those are right up in the local paper. Yeah, look at him. Jumping in the water. So you would have left the canal, floated a little bit down the river, and that's where you would enter the Delaware Canal, continue on down to Philadelphia. So finished steel or iron products, before the railroad really took off, would have gone down the canal. This is one of the many dams that would have held the river back, raising the water level to allow you to get there. So this is the Lehigh, down there is the Delaware. Across the Delaware is Phillipsburg, New Jersey. And then this is Easton. Follow the Lehigh all the way west. And a particular set of stairs to absolutely nowhere. They're doing some work modernizing the park, so there's a lot of new things in here. But yeah. So again, just like with the Lehigh, you'd enter through here. Gravity feed would bring it down or up to the level of the canal. Continue along that way, and this is where they let in water to maintain the level of the canal. I got these markers all throughout. Delaware and Lehigh Trail, that's to Bristol, which is down by Philly. Alternately, this is for the Lehigh to Wilkes-Barre. Wilkes-Barre is like 40 miles ish. Yeah, I don't have the free time to make that trip. But another interesting infrastructure project, I guess you could call it. Rivers typically have migrating fish. The Delaware and the Lehigh really are no exception. The shad, S-H-A-D, shad, would enter the Delaware down by Philly, come up the Delaware. They would meet that dam, which would prevent them from going up the Lehigh. About 30 or so years ago, they built an actual fish ladder. So rather than going against the dam, you could fight the current up this. There used to be a little viewport, but as you can see, it's leaking pretty badly. And you also used to be allowed down there, but that gate's been locked. Oof. That is a nasty hole. Yeah, you used to be able to see, when they were migrated, you could see the fish, but I don't know if that's going to be around much longer. So to get bearings, that's east, eventually to the Atlantic Ocean, south to Philly, west to Bethlehem, or north to Stroudsburg and Port Jervis, New York. And much like with the Lehigh Canal, the Delaware, well, it's the same setup. You can see the sediment with all the flooding and everything. Just changed the water level. Difficult to imagine what this would have looked like, when it was fully functional. Quite a lot of moving parts. So as a guy who's worked in the steel industry, it's interesting to see the underbelly of a bridge. The way it transfers the weight and load. You see the gusset plates. This bridge is still active. This is abandoned. You can see it's older. It's got a different set of the construction. The gusset plate brings all those pieces together.
You know what I wanted to ask you? Did they ever...
Back when I was a kid, we used to come down here, hang out, pretend like we were having a treasure hunt. Of course, as teenagers, we came down here to smoke pot and drink beer. Almost looks like a pirate's cove or something. But so that's a closer look at Phillipsburg. It said that's south to Philadelphia eventually. That's north. Keep going north against the current. Eventually you'll hit Port Jervis, New York. And that's the city of Easton. You got the Delaware, you got the Lehigh. The closest of those green bridges is the Free Bridge. The next bridge over is the bridge for US Route 22, which is slightly different from the interstate. So I showed you the shad ladder from the top, where that leak was. This is where the shad would flow in, follow the ladder, stake its way through, and end up on the top side of this dam into the Lehigh, which of course would allow them to go all the way back to their spawning grounds, all the way on up. So I'm now getting hit by spray from the Lehigh, from the falls. Well, you can kind of see down. I don't know if you can see it here with the GoPro, but it's actually pretty shallow. So closing that off and getting that window fixed up shouldn't be too much of an issue. You can see these social trails coming through. This is where teenagers would come down and smoke pot, drink beer, and hang out. It's also where fishermen would take to get down to the falls. Because even though you're not supposed to fish down there, plenty of fucking people do. Well, that's a little bit more the it's almost like swimming through a rapid, the rapids, rather than trying to fucking scale an actual dam. And it wouldn't be an industrial powerhouse falling into hard times. It wasn't for graffiti. So that's your Lehigh River. It empties out into the Delaware. That way south to Philly, north to Port Jervis, or west to Jim Thorpe, Wilkes-Barre, Bethlehem, Allentown. So this is the interstate before the interstate, before cars. This would have been, the canal would have been the way that you would move people, raw materials, and finished products. Bring everything where it needed to be. There's not much around, not much left, but you still have the bones. So you can still tell a bit of that early pre-industrial history for the United States. So this is sort of a homecoming as I come back to Easton for the first time in about 20 years. And brought a GoPro with me, and I'm gonna do a little bit more, kind of make a series out of it, show you a little bit of the colonial history. Not too many colonial settlements went on to be very important in the history, early history of the United States, but Easton actually had a hand in the birth of this nation, and I won't give away too much. I'll save some of that info for the series as we come along here, but yeah. If you made it this far, thanks for joining me, and keep an eye out. hoping to kind of do a little bit more, a lot more actually, and bring you some more content and show off my travels. And yeah.